that Carrie or Candace are all set as well.
All set to go, Mr. Chair. Ready to start when you are.
Let me give it one more minute, guys, okay? Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Boston City Councilor Ed Flynn, and I'm the chairman of Veterans and Military Affairs Committee here at the Boston City Council. Thank you for attending the City Council hearing today. In accordance with Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 executive order modifying certain requirements of the open meeting law in relieving public bodies of certain requirements, including the requirement that public bodies conduct its meeting in a public place that is open and physically accessible to the public, the City Council will be conducting this hearing virtually. This enables the City Council to carry out its responsibilities while adhering to public health recommendations and ensuring public access to its deliberations through adequate alternative means. This public hearing is being recorded and live streamed on www.boston.gov/citycouncil-tv. It will also be rebroadcasted at a later date on Xfinity 8, RCN 82, and FiOS 964. Anyone that would like to testify on this matter, please email shane.pack@boston.gov. shane.pac@boston.gov for the Zoom link. Today's hearing is on docket 0300, order for a hearing to discuss services for women veterans. This matter is sponsored by myself and Councilor Lydia Edwards and was referred to the Committee on City and Neighborhood Services on February 3rd, 2021. I'd like to offer an opening statement, then hand it over to my co-sponsor, Councilor Edwards. I think she might be running a little late. And then the panelists from the city. After that, my colleagues and I will offer questions and comments, then hand it over to the public for testimony. Before I do that, I want to welcome our guests, our panelists that are here with us today. Commissioner Rob Santiago, United States Navy, Office of Veterans Services. I know Brian Bishop is also here with us, United States Air Force, Office of Veterans Services. Roseanne Trianfani Mazzucchelli, if I'm pronouncing it correct, Director of Veterans Services, the town of Winthrop, and I believe also the Veterans Service Officers Association. Carolyn Mason Hooley, acting VISN Lead Women Veterans Program Manager at the VA Health Center here in Boston. I also know John Ellison as well is joining us. So thank you to Councilor Edwards for your partnership on this important hearing and to the panelists for being here. This hearing aims to start a discussion and continue a discussion on the existing services for our women veterans and how veterans organization and VA hospitals can offer gender-specific services for our women veterans. Today, women comprise nearly 20% of serving in the military and 10% of the veteran population today, making up an important part of our military. However, despite their significant contributions, women veterans often don't receive enough support. For example, the Department of Veterans Services has medical facilities that provide for maternity and other services for veterans, but we need to make sure that we expand services, programs, opportunities for women veterans, especially medical facilities that provide maternity care for veterans. Moreover, 25% of women veterans experience military sexual trauma, MST, during military services, and they are more likely to struggle with child care, homelessness, and mental health challenges. It is important that we recognize the contributions and service of our women veterans, as well as realize the challenges that women veterans face. It is critical that our women veterans receive the care and services they need for their health and well-being and for their families as well. I look forward to hearing from our panelists. I'm just looking to see if any of my other council colleagues are on. At this time, my council colleague from Alston and Brighton is on. Council Liz Braden. Council Braden, thank you for joining us. And I'd like to ask Council Braden if you'd like to give an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for all your great work in veterans on the issue of veteran services and for your services as a veteran yourself. I'm the chair of the Strong Women, Families and Communities Committee, and there's a certain level of overlap here about concern for women veterans, making sure they're getting adequate and appropriate services to support their needs. So I look forward to hearing the conversation and hearing from the panelists this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Braden, for being with us. The original co-sponsor with me is Councilor Lydia Edwards from District 1. And I know Councilor Edwards will talk about her story, but she has been a tremendous advocate and ally for not only for women veterans, but for all veterans and families as well. Her mother is retired from the United States Air Force. She has a tremendous and unique perspective that's critical to this discussion and the important role women veterans play in our society and the struggles that they have as well. She's been a tremendous advocate, a tremendous ally in support of our military families across the Commonwealth. Having said that, Councilor Edwards, thank you for being here and wanted to give you an opportunity to open up with the opening statement.
Thank you very much, Councillor Flynn. I appreciate very much so that you invited me to be an original co-sponsor of this. I do want to talk a little bit about why this particular hearing means so much to me. As Councillor Flynn noted, my mother is a veteran, and she served in the Air Force for 23 years. She joined during Vietnam and left during Iraq War. And I and my sister, we grew up on military bases. And there's something very unique about the families and military base life and a special kind of bond that you have with everybody who's grown up there. But there's also something especially bonding for those of us who were children of mothers in the military. Daycare was vital in order for our mothers to be able to serve this country. After school programs were necessary. The ability for our mothers to be seen as the incredibly brave, patriotic soldiers that they are is also still something that many people are struggling with for some reason. When I talk about being a military brat, everyone assumes my father was in the military and served. And he did for 4 years. But the lifer, the one who went back to actually serve and work with her military veterans, who went to the VA actually after she retired from the United States Air Force and ran healing circles and working with younger soldiers coming back from Iraq, is my mother. And it was an insult for many people for many years that your mother wears combat boots. My mother wore combat boots proudly. She also wore high heels. She showed me what strength, grace, patriotism, and hard work is every single day. I remember being that kid when my mother would go, quote unquote, practice for war when they were on 24-hour shifts. That meant the daycares had to stay open because they had to make sure that we were prepared and ready if and when the United States was ever going to be attacked. That was part of my life. We had healing circles for my friends and I when I was 10 years old during Iraq 1, because our parents were off serving in Iraq. The impact on children and being raised on military bases, I would say, is overwhelmingly positive, but it's a different world. And so and we need to acknowledge that during service, it's a different world. The statistics that Ed Flynn just read may be statistics to you all, but I can assure you from personal stories from my mother, from women she served with, from hearing about what they dealt with in terms of sexual harassment and sexual assault, especially joining the military in the 60s and 70s, is a deeper wound. It's not enough to say, are we going to just give services to them? You need to call it out. That there are people that serve the United States that have raped other soldiers. I don't want it to be seen as something in terms of an injury that the soldier is facing. This is a damn shame, and it's wrong, and it needs to be called out. And anyone who does that, with my tax dollars, obviously, and under this flag, is a coward, is an insecure bastard, and shouldn't be serving in the United States military. I'll say that. But I had to hear about those stories. I just recently heard about it from a young veteran who's 3 years younger than me, Black woman who served. And she said she had left under injury. She left, had honorable discharge due to MST, due to sexual assault. So I do wonder, are we acknowledging that? Not just in terms of a healing moment, but how incredibly cruel that must be, that your colleague that you're supposed to take a bullet for, that you're supposed to defend for, would do something like that. Clearly, that's a culture concern. And it isn't just women who get raped in the military. We know that. The concern that I think a lot of people have and have always had is that when people are not, quote, part of the traditional understanding of who's patriotic, they speak different languages, have beautiful accents, or come in many different colors, that the prejudices that they were facing at home, they don't automatically just disappear when you're in the military. And they don't disappear when you come back from serving. The welcoming back and acknowledging the service of our soldiers in whatever form they come in has been something that this country still needs to improve on. Black soldiers coming back from World War II were lynched, were attacked, were beaten up for wearing the uniforms that they wore when defending this country abroad. Gay soldiers being actually just told to leave, being told who they are and how they are, made them less patriotic. I think on Harvey Milk's gravestone, he mentioned something about how he was honored for killing a man, but demonized for loving one. Mm. He served this country. So we're still talking about then women when they come home. And that's what we need to really acknowledge. They didn't disappear when they went in there. And I think there's a special kind of patriotism that you must have when the country that is not fully recognizing your humanity is the country you are willing to die for. So today's hearing is about how we are going to fully recognize the humanity of soldiers, particularly women soldiers, as they come back. And I want it to be clear, we're including transgendered and non-binary soldiers as well in this conversation. And we need to. So I'm excited about this conversation. I'm excited to get deep in this conversation. And I hope that this is the beginning of many. So we start the hearings, we can have working sessions, we can hear from more women veterans. I know getting them today on the Zoom might have been a little harder, but we definitely need to continue to center them. So thank you for this opportunity, Councillor Flynn. I'm excited about this conversation.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Thank you for your partnership on this issue and in many issues. Appreciate that unique perspective that you have bringing to this hearing today. Let me go to the Commissioner of Veterans Services, Rob Santiago, who's done an outstanding job, but also has really brought to the public the incredible sacrifices and services of gay and lesbian veterans, as well. I was proud to work closely with Rob on that issue for the last 4 years. But Commissioner Santiago, thank you for being with us, and this is your opportunity for an opening statement.
Thank you, Chair Flynn. Good morning, Chair Flynn, Councilor Edwards, members of the Boston City Council, colleagues, and fellow veterans. First, I want to say, Councilor Edwards, thank you very much for sharing your experiences and your thoughts and your passion to ensure that all veterans, no matter what gender, no matter what who they sleep with, are taken care of. And for you sharing those experiences is very powerful for me, as a veteran, and also very powerful for everyone who I hope is in earshot of today's hearing. So I also just want to thank everybody for their time and opportunity to testify. Councilor Edwards,
Rob, you're muted.
Have I been muted this whole time?
No, just over the last couple seconds.
Okay, sorry about that. So you had mentioned a couple of stats. I just wanted to share a couple of stats. According to the National Center for Veterans Analysis and Statistics, their report of February 2020, it is estimated that 10%, just like you said, of our veterans population are women. Here in the city of Boston, we estimate that 7% of our veterans who call Boston home are also women. And these percentages have increased in recent years as more women are wearing our nation's uniforms and are increasing, and as their roles increase also in military operations. Our women veterans have always answered the call in times of crisis. As we heard Councilor Edwards' mother for 23 years, she has risen her hand in crisis and also in times of uncertainty. These women have left their families to face the enemy, both seen and unseen. They have given their blood, sweat, and tears, and even their lives to protect our freedoms and our way of life. When there was a need, they answered the call. Now it is incumbent upon us to return the call in their time of need. Here's a very interesting fact that I want to point out. All women who have served our country have done so voluntarily. Women have never been drafted for military service, and that speaks volumes. Women veterans have needs and concerns that are not experienced by their male counterparts. Thus, they require services specific to those needs. So we want to ensure women veterans receive the services and benefits earned as they transition back to civilian life. On our website, boston.gov/veterans, there is a link specifically for women veterans. It has information about the many resources that are available to them. For example, a women veteran can sign up for the Women's Health Training course. This course helps transitioning service women and recently separated women veterans. There is also information about the City of Boston Women's Advancement Department, and of course, the many services offered by the VA, and this is just to name a few. I will not get into the VA program since we have Caroline from the VA, which I'm sure will go over the many great programs they have here in the Boston VA. I also wanted to mention that I'm a member of the Massachusetts Veteran Services Officers Association, the MVSOA, in which I have been elected as the first vice president, and am proud to work under the leadership of our president, Roseanne Masciucelli. I'm sorry, Roy, if I messed up your name as well. The first woman elected in that position. Ro is also the recipient of this year's Deborah Sampson Award, and I am very honored to have worked with her. We work very closely together in taking care of our veterans, being that we're both neighboring communities, and she has just been fantastic, and also taking care of our women veterans, especially those that suffer from MST and the invisible wounds that they have taken with them from military service. I can remember just a few short years ago, there being only a handful of women as VSOs, and I'm happy to report that that number has more than doubled. We have a VSO representing every city and town in the Commonwealth. So to me, it is very important that our VSOs are representative of the community they serve, as many women veterans will only talk about their concerns with other women veterans. As I stated earlier, women veterans have many gender-related concerns from their time in the military that continue after their discharge. A lot of these include sexual assault during active duty, biases against mothers, health concerns. One of the biggest ones that I've heard are ill-fitting equipment that leads to injuries, especially in the battlefield. Homeless female veterans and suicide. Many of these, they go unreported because there is a level of mistrust between and fear of retaliation from their chain of command, and we're concerned that they will also not be believed. While there may be so many different points of views about the services needed for women veterans, we have to take them all seriously. While we respect all who served our country, we also need to understand the growing concerns of those who are being underserved and make services available to them. My question is, where do we begin, or how do we continue? We first must become aware and educated about the unique areas that confront women veterans, and then inform others like family members, community leaders, professionals, legislators, health service providers. I'm very much looking forward to hearing the testimonies today as we continue to amplify our women veterans. So Chairman Flynn, Councilor Edwards, and the Boston City Council, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Santiago. Commissioner Santiago mentioned we have Carolyn Mason-Hooley from the VA Medical Center. We're proud of the outstanding work that you've done, Carolyn, in the VA, especially here in New England, have been on the forefront of a lot of the federal programs, and a lot of them have started and been implemented right here in Boston. But Caroline, this is your opportunity for an opening statement. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn and Councilor Edwards and the other members of the council and guests for having me. I'm Carolyn Mason-Wally. I am the Women Veterans Program Manager for VA Boston, and currently the acting lead for VISN 1, which encompasses all of New England. I'm proud to represent VA Boston's Women Veterans Program. We are here to provide care to over 4,000 women veterans a year and provide comprehensive services to women veterans from primary care, gynecology, mammography, and other radiology services. We look to care in the community for maternity and infertility services. Our mental health services include acute inpatient mental health care for women, as well as residential care for women in the form of the Women's Integrated Treatment and Recovery Program down in Brockton, which is for women with PTSD and substance use. Our transitional housing program called the Trust House, which is in the neighborhoods of Jamaica Plain. The HUD-VASH program, which has been so supportive of our so many women veterans that present, particularly those with children. In our highly regarded Women's Trauma Recovery Team, providing outpatient mental health services to women, which is based in Jamaica Plain. The Women's Health Sciences Division of the National Center for PTSD, also based in Jamaica Plain, has published research and developed treatment protocols for women veterans across the world. Women veterans presenting to VA Boston healthcare system often come with a variety of needs. Those needs require us to work across all of our service lines, but also to partner with VAs across the country, the Commonwealth services, and the city's services. I'm pleased to work regularly with all our partners, most importantly, the Women Veterans Network Steering Committee for the state of Massachusetts, as well as our local private and nonprofit organizations to fill the needs that we cannot provide for, and partner with, including partnering with local healthcare systems for maternity care, child care facilities across the Commonwealth, housing, employment, and education. We work together to reach out to women veterans that have needs and don't understand or know benefits for which they qualify. We work regularly with veteran service organizations and service officers such as Roseanne to work with our women veterans. I appreciate so much that when our women prefer to work with a woman VSO, that our women VSOs across the state are willing and able to reach across town lines, city lines to help a woman veteran. We look forward to continuing to develop our services and also to address culture change across the community to change the perception of who a veteran is and honor the service of our women veterans that they have provided for us. Thank you for this opportunity to address the council, and I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Carolyn, for your great testimony. We appreciate all the great work you're doing. Roseanne Mazzucchelli from Winthrop is the Veterans Service Coordinator across the state and also the representative for Winthrop as well. Roseanne, thank you for being on, and just want to ask if you want to give an opening statement.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I want to thank my Vice President and my brother Robert for those kind words, and Caroline. As the president of the Mass Veteran Service Officers Association, I hope to bring more awareness to what women need as military veterans. And I too, I'm 21 years in, and I understand exactly what Councilor Edwards was speaking of, because my kids were told, because I had 4 children while I served, your mom wears army boots. And I used to tell my kids, tell them that because your mother is a badass. But being in law enforcement, and I was a combat military policewoman, and then an Army criminal investigator special agent. And I did active duty for several years, and then I joined the reserves. But my reserve unit supported the regular Army CID unit. We were at the time at Desert Storm when I was deployed down to DC for a protective service mission. We were, as females, were only 200 strong. That is both active duty and reservists for CID agents, criminal investigation agents, with the U.S. Army Criminal Investigation Command. So quite regularly we would get deployed for many missions, but for protective service. And all those times, my husband and I met in the service, and we both ended up in the same unit. And many times he was the dad who stayed at home with the kids, and getting the kids off to school and whatnot, and putting pink and purple pants on my son. They were 3 sizes too big, but that's okay. We got through it. And when I came home, I was met with great adversity when I went to the VA at first, because I kept getting asked, who was your sponsor? Who was your sponsor? And I didn't understand the question at first, other than, what are you talking about? I'm my own sponsor. So that was tough. And then in my own community in Winthrop, where I live, I was told I wasn't a veteran. I said, oh, okay. And I said, you know what? I'm your replacement, and I'm going to do the best job I can. And I'm proud to say that I have helped many, many women. I get frequent calls from the VA, from your counselors, that request that I help female veterans with their MST claims. I had a bad experience with my MST claim. I haven't been able to sit down and redo it, because I was told I was law enforcement. What did I should have known better. And that hit me hard. Thankfully, that counselor is no longer employed by the VA. So that's a little bit about my background. I'm the first woman in my family to join the military. The males before me were either in the Italian Army or the American Army. I'm first generation born here. My parents were both born in Italy. So I was proud to serve. And I encourage young people in my community to serve as well, especially the females. And thank you for this opportunity. I totally appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Roseanne, for your testimony and the tremendous work you do across the state. And I know you partner up with various cities and towns and providing services to any woman veteran, regardless of their location. So thank you for your tremendous work, Roseanne. I have questions, and I know my council colleagues have questions, but I'm going to ask my colleague, Councilor Edwards, to go first, and then I'll ask Councilor Braden to go after Councilor Edwards, and then I'll probably go after. And we can mix it up, and whoever can respond, whoever's appropriate to respond, I think that might be the best way to do the Q&A. But having said that, Councilor Edwards, would you like to start the Q&A process?
Sure. I have a quick announcement and then some questions. First, I wanted to invite everyone to come this Saturday to our first Hero Square mother-son dedication. Flojo, I think, Roseanne, you may have known her. She was a huge advocate for women veterans. She was a veteran herself. She is getting a Hero Square, and her son served also in for this country, and he died in Vietnam. And so we're putting her Hero Square next to her son's. It'll be the first one done in the city. So I wanted everyone to know that that's happening. I want to say Saturday at 10 o'clock?
I believe it's at 11.
11 o'clock in Charlestown. I wanted to thank also the department and especially Robert Santiago for that. I think it's really acknowledging that special bond, but also how beautiful that is that the mother and son will always be honored together for their service. I'm just really honored about that. So some questions or some thoughts in terms of being able to welcome back and assure that our women veterans are treated with respect and dignity that they deserve. There's something particularly about MST and trauma that comes with that oftentimes doesn't appear for decades until after the fact. That we learned that from PTSD, but also from the in general from sexual assault. So I'm so disappointed, Roseanne, by your experience that you had, that someone told you should have known better. But I'm also curious, when people are received right now, women particularly, when they are received right now and they're assessed, and how is that brought up or how is that dealt with? Is there a specific question asked? Is it just a form that she would fill out? That's one question. And then in terms of the wraparound services, when they have children particularly, is there any assessment or any thought to therapy or guidance or working around with family therapy for when all veterans are coming back? Because a lot of people, and in general, when their mother is coming back, do you find that there's a difference for children, especially if she was deployed abroad? So just the two questions I have right now.
Thank you, Lydia. My kids have seen some not so fine moments of me, even though I've tried to hide it. I was, again, on multiple deployments. A lot of them were under 30 days because they were missions, people that I've protected. And then when I would go on active duty to do investigations, there were things that, as law enforcement or as a criminal investigator, investigating, criminal investigators are your equivalent to your OSI, your NCIS. We investigate all felonies, similar to what the FBI does and what your local police detectives do, investigate crimes. And there were things that I saw, and maybe I was very street smart when my kids were growing up. I have great kids. One of them tested me quite often, and I'm proud to say that he is a nurse. And he, so I knew I was always two steps ahead of him when he was about to do something wrong. When I would get a call from the local police department, because the benefits of being in a small town have, especially when you're working with veterans and working for the town, you have a little commonality, a little common courtesy there. And so I understood a lot. And there were times that my kids saw me at moments that weren't the best, and that I would have to just alienate myself, put myself aside so they didn't see it. And at one point, both my husband and I were deployed. And all 4 of my children, thankfully, we were blessed to have my parents around. And they stayed with my mother while I was on a quick mission back to Germany. And it was only for 10 days. But they understood what it was to have both parents out of the picture. And they didn't like that. They didn't like that at all. And my husband and I were the first couple dual service military family in Winthrop. We had just moved to Winthrop when I was deployed for Desert Storm. I only went to DC. And then when I went to Germany, we were the only military couple in Winthrop serving. I had to do a lot of explaining with the schools because they didn't understand how all that worked and how my mother was coming into the picture to take care of our kids. They just weren't used to that. And again, small town. And my kids today know when they come in the room if they have to wake me up, they know to yell it from the door and not to just grab me because I still react. So I do a very good job at putting my feelings away, putting them aside. And that works best for me. My counselor at the vet center isn't too happy about it, but that's what I do that works for me. And for me to help my sister veterans or who also are parents, especially to try to get through to them, I have to put my stuff aside to help them. And I always come off saying, you got to be brave, you got to be strong, you got to be here for your kids, especially with talk of suicide. And my daughter pointed out to me, not everybody can be brave and strong and move on like you have. And that hit me in the face, big time. So now I'm more in tune with understanding and having a little bit more empathy for my sister veterans who are moms, especially, and for the kids. And I do talk with the kids. I always talk with the kids. And I've had kids come to me and say, hey, my mom is going through a hard time right now. Can we talk? I'm like, absolutely. My office door is always open. I give a lot of the families my personal cell phone, especially if they're deployed or having a hard time, to call me. And I've gotten those calls at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. So I'm in it 110%. I was always taught when you do a job, you do it, give it your all or don't do it at all. So we just keep moving forward. That's what I say. Keep moving forward. Thank you. Did I answer your questions?
Yes. And just for me, you just really reflected and let me know how many times my mother, she was a single mom in this. So there was an immense amount of things she had to hold back.
Yeah.
And I think that is, my mother worked extremely hard and obviously was proud to serve in this country. But I think on behalf of a lot of military kids whose mothers were in the military, there's a lot that you guys hold that we won't know about.
No.
And I want to say thank you for showing that. But just, I think it's so important that people understand. I think one of the biggest things that you mentioned and showed was when you finally present to say, now here, I need these resources. I've earned these resources. I have served my country. And for someone to question at all in any way, shape, or form, are you the one? Are you the veteran?
Yeah.
That I think is the greatest.
It's a slap in the face.
Slap in the face. Thank you. You said it. Thank you. I wanted to know then, so how, in terms of resources for women, and in terms of their coming back, I think it was, is it Dr. Carolyn? I'm sorry, or is it? I don't.
Carolyn works.
Carolyn and Roseanne, this is for both of you. What are the current women-specific resources? If I have someone who comes to me as a city councilor and says, I need help as a woman veteran, and I actually do agree, and I don't know if Roseanne, you agree, having a woman's, was it CSO? Sorry, my acronyms are off. I haven't done, the last time I said, I was talking about the BMX or BF and all those other, the basic exchange and stuff. So my acronyms are off, but it was having the officer being a woman. Do you think that that's very important, Roseanne? But also, how many of them do we have here in Massachusetts, Boston area, and how do we need more resources?
So I'll let Carolyn answer all the VA questions. Women VSOs are the fastest growing demographic of veteran service officers. Veteran service officers represent every city and town in Massachusetts. No other state does that. That is why we lead the nation in services for our veterans and our veteran families. I have a lot of people coming down off the border from New Hampshire because they can't get a hold of one of the 4 people in their whole state. So we're very blessed in Massachusetts to be able to do that. So having said that, we are the fastest growing demographic, female veteran service officers. And I think it's really important that we all decided amongst us as a group, we will help the female veterans in our surrounding cities and towns. We will, I deal with a counselor from the VA, and she has sent me clients from Franklin, from Norwood, from the South Shore, from the Cape. And as long as they feel comfortable to come to Winthrop, I will take care of them. I will help them. If they can't come, then I'll meet them halfway, and I've been known to travel. My office is getting quite busy. I'm a one-woman show, but so I ask people to come to my office if they can. But we have decided as a group, as an organization, to handle and help our male counterparts when it comes to helping a female veteran or a female veteran or a veteran family, because it's important. It really, really is. I wish the rater that I spoke with when I was going for my comp and pen exam at the VA was a woman. There was no female available for me. So, which is, I was quite taken aback by, but I was used to being in an all-male role. I was the only female in my unit, 20 guys and me. And they never looked at me as a woman. They looked at me as another agent, which I was very grateful for. So they treated me as an equal. But it is so important to be there. And I just had my first case of male MST a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And this gentleman is in his 80s, and he had never told a single person that he was attacked in basic training. But he felt comfortable enough to sit with me in my office to say that to me, which that made my day. I mean, I was sad for him, but we got help for him, and he's getting help. So, and I so appreciate. So, and I'll defer to Carolyn for the VA stuff.
Thank you, Ro. I really appreciate all that you've done. And I know that I am one of those people that has reached out to you and said, I have a woman that I'd really like to have sit down with you or one of your other female VSOs to really put together their service-connected applications, because I know you get it. I really appreciate that. In terms of the VA, I want to answer a couple pieces of your question, Counselor Edwards. When any woman veteran needs to reach out to the VA, whether it's Veterans Healthcare Administration, Veterans Benefits Administration, or National Cemetery Administration, we do have a one-point contact. It is called the Women Veterans Call Center. And it's a 800 number. It's 855 VA Women, and it's toll-free. What's great about that line is that the folks that answer that call will connect that veteran to the closest Women Veterans Program Manager for VA Healthcare, the Women Veterans Coordinators at the Veterans Benefits Administration, or with the point of contact at National Cemetery Administration. They can also chat online with that call center. So womenshealth.va.gov, there's a link to do an online chat. So I have received calls from all over the country, people coming to Massachusetts, women that are moving to Boston, someone who's coming for school or for a new job, and they need to establish care. They want resources in terms of housing options or social gatherings for women veterans. And it's been a great way for me to connect with them and for them to connect with us at the VA. I also wanted to go back a little bit to talk about military sexual trauma and how it's asked at the VA, and when and where. So something to know, all veterans who come into the VA are screened for military sexual trauma, both men and women. The way that screening happens, it's required at least once. However, in more recent years, we've really been focusing on providing trauma-informed care so that when somebody presents, we are taking into consideration their background. Have they experienced a trauma, whether it be military sexual trauma, intimate partner violence, childhood sexual assault, or the many other traumas that may present. We're asking this question. We're trying to make sure that when someone comes in for their care, that there are multiple touch points where we're taking this, where we're looking at this and making sure that we're not coming up behind somebody and touching them on the shoulder, and we're not, frightening somebody by jumping in and providing some kind of care without explaining what's happening. In primary care, so I'm sitting in a women's health clinic right now, and one of the greatest services that has really taken off exponentially since the start of the pandemic is a warm handoff, even if it's online. So if somebody comes into primary care and they're struggling with depression or anxiety or other issues related to those traumas or to other issues in their life, that there is a primary care behavioral health clinician on standby that we can reach out to and connect that patient to almost immediately. And I think that this service has really greatly improved how we can connect women with the many mental health services that we provide. I know that our emergency room and our urgent care clinics are also very focused on providing that type of service. There's always a mental health clinician, psychiatrist, and social worker on call in those facilities when they are open. So that's another touch point where we can reach out and help as needed. I do think that a woman presenting with, no matter where they present, whether it is at the Veterans Healthcare Administration or the Benefits Administration or in our VSO's offices, that this issue is much more in the forefront than it used to be. And we're trying to make sure that all of those lines of communication are open and that we are passing off and doing that warm handoff when needed. And I don't mean that like get out of my office, go to that person's office. I mean to bring someone in and say, I can't necessarily provide this service, but can you do that with me? Can you help this veteran with me? And that's, I think, one of the strengths of our veteran services here in Massachusetts.
Councillor Flynn, that's it for me on my questions. I think if at anything to Carolyn and to Roseanne, I'd like to follow up on offline about continued services and connections. But I mean, in terms of for today's hearing, both of you were incredible, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. Give me a call anytime.
You're muted, Eddie.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Woods. Councilor Braden, Q&A for the group.
Thank you. I'm really appreciate the fact that we are flagging up this issue of military service, sexual trauma. I just wonder, in terms of the assumption is, I'm making the assumption that it's largely underreported, and that there are a lot of folks who are carrying that trauma, and that they're not talking about it or not reporting it. So do you have any sort of metrics on how prevalent this problem is? Like, I'm imagining it is very prevalent.
When you are, when we survey veterans that come to the VA for healthcare, about 1 in 100 men report military sexual trauma, and 1 in 4 women report military sexual trauma. It's a very high number, and it's obviously something that needs to be at the forefront. In terms of reporting, I think one of the shifts that I've seen in my 12 years in this position is that women who served in previous eras, so World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and peacetime, were much less likely to either report it or to seek out services for the results of their traumas. I am seeing a shift in more recent eras to being more willing to talk about it. Although I'm anecdotally, more of the women that I come in contact with will talk about it and report it after their service. So when they come in for VA healthcare or other vet center counseling or home-based program or something like that.
Yeah, it's a horrific statistic that 1 in 4
yes.
women veterans
Yes.
have experienced that. You know, and I suppose it's an upstream approach. Like, I'm not familiar with, and this, you're talking very much about veterans, but veterans serving soldiers, ultimately they become veterans. Upstream, what is the military doing about prevention? Or, like, I had a friend once reported that she was in military academy and that she was basically terrorized of men banging on the doors at night and trying to, her sexual harassment was rampant, and she ended up leaving. I just know, what are our military doing to try and, are they really seriously addressing? I know it's been raised at the federal level, but it just seems that an instance of 1 in 4 demands a much more vigorous and aggressive approach to weeding out this problem.
Thank you, Councilor Breeden. I'll talk a little bit on that one. I know that the military is trying to do everything they can to have a lot of different programs to address these issues across the board with their soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, and Coast Guardmen. And one of the things that is happening in our military right now is the full integration of women in all roles within the military. Just here recently, I met with members of the USS Massachusetts. Is a pre-commissioned decommissioning unit that's being built right now, and that's going to be the first submarine that actually integrates women into the subservices. So there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of work to be done, especially in the military. But there are steps that are being taken to address these issues. And it is a horrifying statistics, 1 in 4, and that's still going on today, and it should not be going on. But the military they know it's happening. It's just a matter of putting in the right people in the right leadership position, and also getting the local communities involved as well, in letting them know, hey, we're watching you, we're holding you accountable. And by holding you accountable, we want to make sure that our daughters, our sons, our brothers, our sisters are serving our country and not being fearful of it. So, again, there's a lot of work to be done, and it's something I'll do a little bit of homework and get those specific programs and make sure that I'll send them your way.
Yeah, I really appreciate the work that's been done to support and help the veterans who are suffering from MST. But it's going to be a full court press to try and reduce the incidents, and I appreciate your work. Thank you. Mr. Chair, that's all I have for the moment. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Councillor Braden, for your questions, for your comments, and for being a strong advocate for women veterans, but also for our military families as well. Thank you, Councillor Braden. And just maybe just to provide a little bit of information, the Congresswoman from the North Shore, Catherine Clark, I believe she's from like Peabody or Melrose area. She is the kind of the lead expert in the Congress on MST related issues. So it might be good for us as a committee to reach out to her to see what else the Congress is doing on this. But I just want to acknowledge the tremendous work Congresswoman Catherine Clark is doing on this issue. And I believe there was a Congresswoman from New York, Carolyn Maloney, in the senator is Kristen Gillibrand, has also been doing a lot of work on MST related issues. So maybe I can reach out to Congresswoman Clark at some point.
Just to speak on Congresswoman Clark, Councilor, I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
I reach out to her a lot. She is a champion when it comes to veterans' rights and benefits. She's the daughter of multi-generation veterans. And I have issues right now as the president of the MVSOA with not only female, but my male veterans who are going for comp and pen exams, that they're being sent 2 to 3 hours away because people on the west side of the country don't know Massachusetts is really bigger than what we really look like on the map. And it's, a lot of our veterans depend on public transportation. So I'm corralling all those veterans who are being asked to drive 2 hours or more for a comp and pen exam. But I reach out to her constantly. So she is very open. And I'm sure if you reach out to her, she'll help you in any way that she can.
Well, that's excellent information. Thanks, Roseanne. And like myself and Council Braden and Council Edwards, we use this opportunity, these hearings, to educate the public too, so the public can get as much information as possible. Comp and pen, just for people that may not know, it's the process of a veteran going to the VA to determine what your disabilities are. It's a series of medical exams or discussions with medical professionals, and they decide what your injuries may have been and what percentage it might be as it relates to your disability. So I guess my question is, I'll only ask this one question, and I know Carolyn knows this answer. But when a woman veteran goes to comp and pen with a series of injuries that may have been sustained on active duty or contributed to her military service, does that woman veteran meet with a woman advocate? Does that woman veteran meet with a woman VA professional, or does that woman, does it not matter for the VA? Do they always, what's the process on that, Carolyn?
Sure. The comp and pen process, as well as all medical care across the VA, at this point, we are required to allow veterans to see a provider of the gender of their choice. I have had a number of veterans that we did not have an expert to do a certain type of comp and pen exam here in Massachusetts, and we have found an expert in one of our neighboring areas that could do the exam. So that is something that we are taking into consideration. Yes.
Thank you, Carolyn. And then my final question. I think we do have public testimony, which we will get to. But my final question, as it relates to gender-specific medical care for women veterans, are we providing that specific care to women veterans, and is there a wait for the woman veteran to get that type of appointment, and are they offered that appointment for gender-specific related medical situations?
Yes. So if a woman presents to the VA and she's looking to start her care, our first referral would be to primary care. Our wait times for primary care for an initial visit are actually significantly lower than in the community, which I had somebody in my life recently that reached out for an initial appointment and waited 6 months for one in the community. I can typically get somebody in within a week at the VA for a designated women's health provider. So that's somebody that can provide that comprehensive care, including all of the gender-specific care. One of the requirements that we have is to have at least one provider at every site where we provide care, one designated women's health provider who can do the comprehensive exam at every site. The preference is to have at least two. All of our facilities in the greater Boston area have at least one, and the two sites where we only have one and not two, I have providers from those facilities that are going to an education program this year to refresh their skills and become a women's health provider. So we're extremely lucky in that respect here in Massachusetts. That availability is not always across the country. About 83% of women at this point in time are assigned to a designated women's health provider for their primary care. Other gender-specific care, so gynecology, we are very fortunate here in Massachusetts. Here in Boston, we have 2 gynecologists on staff, as well as their support staff, nursing, and a nurse practitioner who do a phenomenal job both in general gynecology but also GYN oncology. And for those services that are very small in number, that you don't want somebody who only does 1 or 2 procedures in a year. Obviously, with the smaller number of women compared to the number of men that we're treating, we want to send those women to someone who is most qualified to provide that care. So, for example, maternity care, we do use our area hospitals and our area healthcare providers for maternity care. because our overall numbers of pregnancies within the VA are fairly small, and we want to make sure that that the care that those women are provided is the best possible.
Well, thank you, Carolyn. We have someone on for public testimony, and she brings a unique perspective as well. So I want to ask Mary Dith Tuitt, who's a member of the Mass Women's Veterans Network Steering Committee. She's also commander of the Carter American Legion Post on Blue Hill Avenue in Mattapan, and she's active with the Organization of African American Veterans as well. So I know she does incredible work across Boston, but also across the Commonwealth as well. Commander, it's good to have you with us, and just wanted to ask you if you'd like to give any comments.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Counselor. It's an honor to be able to speak and testify in front of you and Counselor Edwards and Braden. I'm glad that I'm able to do this as the African-American veteran, female veteran. We always have to talk about female veterans, and I'm so excited that you guys are doing this because we don't get this opportunity much to talk about what we go through and how we come out. And listening to my sisters when they were talking about, and Commissioner Santiago said, we're not drafted into this. We make that choice. We make that choice to join the military. I joined the United States Navy. I wanted to be a jet mechanic and became a jet mechanic. So, with this, I want to talk about how the jobs and what we do when we're in the military, transitioning into civilian world doesn't work well. Sometimes they don't transition well. As a jet mechanic, I worked on jet aircrafts. I worked on helos. I did intermediate quality assurance. And when I came out into the civilian world, everyone looked at me like, you're a jet mechanic. No, you're not. You couldn't possibly be. And then I went to civilian school. And then after a while, I realized that I was going to have a hard time doing what I wanted to do. I wanted to work FBOs. I wanted to work Delta Airlines, somebody, but I had to change my career, So I changed my career, and everything that I learned in the military, every college course that I took in the military is not valid when I decided to go and get me a college degree, because I was told that even though I had experience doing what I was doing, I was overqualified, underqualified, because I didn't have a college degree. So none of my college stuff transitioned into my new life of trying to go into a business degree or something like that. I had to go into mechanical arts, and that wasn't something I was still interested in. But I want to thank you for that. But the transition is one thing, and then we have the ability to talk about being an African-American veteran, an African-American female veteran, what I went through boot camp, what I went through in training, what I went through in all the different places that I was stationed. I was treated differently because I was a woman of color. I was treated differently because I was a woman. And so that's two hits right there. I'm a woman of color, and I'm doing transition of so much stuff that I had to prove myself over other women that were in my shop. There were 3 of us in the shop, but I was the only woman, And every station that I went to, I had to do more because I was a woman of color. Then I came home, and like I said, I came home and got involved in the community and did things, and I still had to do more. As you said, I am commander of the American Legion Post in Mattapan, and I'm not the first female, I'm the 3rd female commander at that post, but I'm the youngest female commander at that post. So I have to prove myself more to my colleagues still. As a veteran, I still have to show 150% instead of the maybe mediocre 65. I got to do 150 to make myself valid and for them to feel comfortable that I'm the commander. I sit on the Women's Steering Committee because I believe that we need more voices at the table. women veterans, female veterans, and veterans of color. A lot of times when I go to veterans events, I stand out in the crowd. Either I'm the only Black woman, or sometimes I'm the only woman. You know, and when I speak, they look at me like, oh, okay. And I have this conversation with someone about something that I tried to do when I was working on Beacon Hill, is getting a female veteran license plate here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I'm not done. I'm going to start it up again, because I think we should have something that says proudly she served, because I have veteran plates. And when I park my car and I get out my car, people say, tell your husband thank you for his service. Why? Why couldn't it be me? Why can't you just say thank you for your service? You know, so I have to say to them, oh no, I'm the veteran, you know, or if I'm not wearing one of my hats, you know, and saying, okay, I'm proud to be a female veteran, you know, or I'm proud to be an American Legion, Legionnaire Commander. You know, there's so many different things. So I want to say thank you for having this hearing and giving us the ability to come and share and talk about everything that's impacting us. The healthcare stuff, my sister Carolyn has talked about that. Roseanne has talked about some of the other issues that we have. Benefits, I've applied for my benefits. My left hand was crushed by a plane when I was on active duty, and I'm still fighting because they say that all the stuff that's going on is not service related. But I mean, I served my time. I crushed the hand, and now I'm having problems. But I have to reapply to fight for the benefits just for one hand, you know? So there's so much, but and we could keep talking, and I hope we have further conversations, and I want to thank you for allowing me to speak today.
Well, thank you, Commander. Your perspective is very important. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for testifying. And we always appreciate your tremendous leadership. And I love going over to the Carter Post several times a year. They're wonderful people over there, wonderful veterans. So I just want to say thank you to you, Commander. Shane, can you tell me if there's anyone else in the public that wants to testify?
Hi, Mr. Chair. No, we don't have anybody else signed up for testimony.
Okay. Thank you, Shane.
Councilor Flynn, if I may, I want to publicly thank Meredith for all her work. I know I've seen firsthand the contributions that she has given to the community and her impact to the community and the veterans community, and in her present role over there with Harvard Medical. So Meredith, thank you very much for all you've done and continue to do for the community and for your resilience and, you know, keeping up the good fight.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well said. I think, Commissioner, I'm friends with a gentleman. You may have known him or know about him, but he was the superintendent of police in Boston. His name was Willis Saunders, and he was a member of the Tuskegee Airmen. He's been passed away a number of years now, but a real American hero. Contributed so much to our country. He's willing to die and fight for our country in World War II. And then when he comes back to the United States, you know, he's discriminated against. He's harassed by people because of his color. And here he is fighting the Nazis and throughout Europe and saving democracy. So when I speak about veterans, I try to also speak about veterans from communities of color and women veterans, and especially immigrant veterans. A lot of immigrant veterans, they may or may not be citizens, but they're willing to risk their life for our country, and they certainly deserve and earn the respect of all of us. So having said that, I'm going to ask a few people if they want to give a closing statement, and then I'll end with my closing statement. But Carolyn, do you want to take this opportunity to give a closing statement, please?
I will, and I think the most important closing statement that I could make is to share something that we recently installed at the VA. And if you will oblige me, each of our facilities in Boston, VA, now has a display similar to what is on the screen. And I think the message is really important that our women veterans are not invisible, that they are all deserving of our services and our care and our appreciation. And so I wanted to share that picture because I think it really talks to what we're doing here today. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Carolyn. And I know the exact exhibit in Jamaica Plain. That's where I get all my medical care. If you look on my Twitter over the last 30 to 60 days, I always highlight those photos and I try to promote the incredible role and sacrifice of women veterans. So it's unbelievable to see those photos there of these heroic women. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. We also have a traveling exhibit that we started, and you may have seen it at Jamaica Plain. It is now in West Roxbury. It's going to Brockton just right after the New Year. And then we'll go out to the community, and I would love to bring it to City Hall or someplace similar to that. And it highlights the photos and the stories of 10 women veterans from Massachusetts that have served honorably. And we can talk about that offline maybe sometime.
I think that's a great idea, Caroline. Caroline, I'd love to host an event and maybe have a reception here at City Hall. So we can stay in contact, Caroline. Let me give Commissioner Santiago the opportunity for a closing statement.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn. This is a great first start, I think, here in the city of Boston in getting this conversation about women veterans and the care that they not just need, but deserve and have earned. I also wanted to take this opportunity, Councilor Flynn, you mentioned the sacrifices of our women veterans. One of the first nurses that was killed in World War II was Frances Slanger. And she was a nurse that took care of our soldiers days after D-Day, the D-Day landing in Normandy. And she was killed by shrapnel from a German artillery that hit the area that she was in. There is a Hero Square in her honor, and it's located in Mattapan. So what I'm planning to do is actually have an award named after her to be given to someone in the community. And also in March, also do a rededication of that Hero Square. Also, I wanted to mention, and Meredith is part of the, and so is Ro, part of the Women's Veterans Network. They're having their 16th annual conference coming up soon. Their conference is a week-long event starting with in-person kickoff at Dunn State Park, and they're also going to have a hybrid Zoom link as well. They're going to have a lot of full care activities. I don't see the date on here. Oh, there it is. It starts November 13th from 1000 to 1400 on Saturdays, a kickoff event. If you want any other additional information, you can go to the Women's Veterans Network Mass.org for more information on that, or you could get a hold of me or our webpage. I'm going to put this up on our webpage at boston.gov/veterans. So it's a great opportunity for women veterans to again network and also go and enjoy the conference that they're having. It's going to include power yoga, self-care initiatives, and things of that nature. So I encourage all women veterans to be a part of this. Other than that, I look forward to the continued partnership with everyone on this call, with Councilor Edwards, you, Councilor Flynn, of course. You've been not only a shipmate and a brother as a Navy veteran, but also a great advocate of our veterans, and it's an honor and a pleasure working with you. And Caroline, thank you for all you do at the VA. I'll give my regards to Director Ng if you see him, and you have a great facility over there. It was great to be part of the ribbon cutting ceremony a couple of months ago. It should have happened months ago, but of course, because of COVID, it didn't happen. So congratulations, and I look forward to continue working with you. And enroll my
Thank you, Commissioner. I should have gone to my colleague, Councilor Edwards. Councilor Edwards, would you like to give closing statement?
Sure. This conversation was beautiful. It was very personal for me, but it was also, I think, a conversation that is going to have to continue. Your leadership, to Meredith and to Roseanne, thank you for your service. Carolyn, I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if you also served as well, but you are serving, and I thank you for your service, and to our service members, I should say. Obviously, to Rob and to Brian, thank you for your service. And I think the greatest thing we can do is acknowledge the patriotism, the bravery of all of our soldiers. And I think as a city of Boston, we're going to lead, and we're going to do just that. And that means also dealing with the harder truths of what it means to serve, and really, really hearing and meeting people where they are, and letting them be who they truly are. So thank you so much for this. I'm excited to get to work. And thank you, Councilor Flynn, again, for inviting me to be a co-sponsor.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Edwards. I really appreciate the working relationship with you on these important issues. And Councilor Edwards, what I would do is put this in committee and have a working session so that we can continue talking about this discussion, this subject, and coming up with some more solutions and bringing more people involved. So I'll probably have a working session sometime in the future. I didn't give a chance to recognize or ask Deputy Commissioner Brian Bishop to speak. Brian, United States Air Force, thanks for being with us. I just want to give you the opportunity to say your comments as well.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn, and thank you to the committee. Councilor Edwards, your statements about your mom is amazing. I worked with a lot of great women in my Air Force career, and they used to joke all the time with us, and they would say, "You guys have it easy, because when I get finished with you guys, I have to go home and take care of my little guys. So my day never ends." So it's a constant battle, and to hear your story, actually, to be totally honest with you, it made me kind of emotional, because I think that the needs of our women veterans are so great, and the challenge is big enough, but having to deal with it in a lot of cases on your own is incredible. And I think that this is the beginning. Commissioner Santiago and I have talked about this many times, about how we can do better, how we can get out there and help our women veterans more, and to identify more. As many of you know, veterans don't always self-identify. You may not know that there's a veteran out there who's in need, who has been disillusioned by the system, who will not go to the VA, but they'll talk to a friend. So I think what we do is, and the commissioner is fantastic with this, and it's an honor to work with him on these issues. But we're your friends. When we're in the military, we're family. And there's people in your family that you love and you cherish, and there's people in your family you don't particularly care for. But at the end of the day, you're still family. So when we serve together, that's exactly what we are. So while we're serving together, we're family, but we need to remain a family when we leave active duty. So again, Councilor Flynn, it's always a pleasure to work with you. We've been working together for many years, and we look forward to moving forward and also being able to come up with new and exciting ways to help our women veterans and all of our veterans, our veterans who are part of marginalized communities, everything. Make sure that, as the commissioner and I used to say back in the day before we came into these positions, is that I'm a veteran first, and then everything else falls to the wayside. They used to always say, "Oh, you're that gay veteran." No, I'm a veteran who happens to be part of the LGBTQ community, and that's what we live by. So again, thank you very much, Counselor and members of the committee and everyone here today. Ro, my sister, thank you so much. And let's just get it done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian. It's good to have you with us, and thank you for your perspective. We really appreciate your leadership. Our friend from Winthrop, Roseanne, would you like to give closing comments?
I would. Thank you. I just want to say, get to know your VSO. We're here to help. We're loud, we're proud, and we're in the community, not only our community, but our sister communities as well. And I encourage all veterans, especially my sister veterans, to get involved with the Women Veterans Network. My sister Meredith and my sister Caroline, we're doing great things to help our sister veterans and to promote the Women Veterans Network. And many voices accomplish great things. And that's what we all try to do in our service organizations. And again, I can't emphasize enough to get to know your VSO. And thank you, Counselor, for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Roseanne. Your testimony here was excellent. We appreciate your leadership. We respect you. And you've been a great friend to veterans and to the city of Boston, obviously to Winthrop, but Boston is lucky to have you as an advocate as well. Thank you, Roseanne. Our friend from the Carter Post, Meredith, are you still on with us? I think Meredith, the commander might not be on, but I just wanted to, first of all, I want to say thank you to the City Council Central staff for helping me coordinate this. Thank you, Shane, and to my City Council staff as well for helping me. Thank you, Sophia. I want to thank the panelists for being here. I want to say thank you to my colleagues and especially to Councilor Edwards and Councilor Braden. And I want to say thank you to Carolyn at the VA. I want to say thank you to Rob Santiago and Brian Bishop at the City of Boston Veterans. And obviously to Roseanne and to Carolyn, as I mentioned. But I greatly appreciate the opportunity to work closely with you. I didn't express my feelings at length, but I had the opportunity to serve 23 years in the military, and I've seen the tremendous role and the sacrifices and services of women veterans. And what we want to make sure is when a woman serves, that woman comes back and has the same level of services as any veteran, whether that's access to VA programs, whether it's job training or educational or medical care, that woman veteran served her country, sacrificed for her country. And we want to make sure we provide the services that she earned. We're not giving that veteran anything. She earned those services. So again, let's continue talking about this. Let's continue working on this. And we'll have another working session. And I'll try to invite the Congresswoman Clark to attend. And we'll get some more women veterans to testify. Hopefully we can do it in person. Maybe City Hall might be opened in person, maybe in January or February, but I'll keep everybody posted. Again, want to say thank you for an outstanding hearing, an outstanding testimony by the public and by this panel. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, everybody.